Welcome to Stories by Rushik podcast. We are constantly conditioned to believe that the law has to be blind, right? Like cold and entirely algorithmic to be considered fair.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be this rigid machine.
Right. But today we are exploring a beautifully written, deeply moving memoir piece by Rushik. It's about the late Judge Frank Caprio. You probably know him from that viral show, Caught in Providence.
Oh, yeah, the internet absolutely loves him. But, our mission today is to really explore how a municipal judge handling mundane parking tickets managed to completely rewrite our cultural grammar of authority and, justice and mercy.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because finding the author's work and in Caprio's videos, it's kind of like spotting a lighthouse on a really dark internet.
That is a great way to put it.
Right, like you click expecting a quick novel distraction, but you end up anchored by this profound humanity. And I just have to highlight the writer's brilliant wit and thought leadership in capturing this whole phenomenon.
It really is brilliant. And to truly understand how Caprio wielded this authority without just, crushing people, we first have to look at the literal foundation of his life, tracing how a boy from a cold water flat built a courtroom defined by warmth.
Yeah, because we see these viral clips of the smiling man in the black robe, but the infrastructure of that compassion was built decades earlier.
What's fascinating here is the timeline. Caprio was born on November 23, 1936, in Providence, Rhode Island, and he passed away August 2025.
Wow, so nearly 9 decades.
Exactly. And he grew up doing real hard labor. Shining shoes, delivering milk, washing dishes. He learned strict discipline from his father and just this immense generosity from his mother.
Which I love, because that kind of physical labor makes you so aware of the working class. And the writer has this really unique perspective on Caprio's courtroom setup, too.
Oh, yeah, describing how intensely ordinary it was.
Yes. Just like humming fluorescent lights, ticking clocks, stacks of minor citations. But it housed this extraordinary work. The writer points out that these minor penalties on paper meant everything in life to the people facing them.
They absolutely did. A simple fine can ruin a month for someone living paycheck to paycheck.
Which makes me wonder, though, if the law is traditionally supposed to be blind, does Caprio's intense focus on an individual's personal context contradict the very idea of impartial justice?
I get why people think that, but the author actually synthesizes this brilliant counter-argument. This wasn't about softening the law. It was affirming the law's actual purpose.
Wait, how so?
Well, Caprio wasn't just improvising kindness out of nowhere. He knew the statutes. He knew the precedents. He did the really hard work of weighing those legal frameworks and then applied human judgment within them.
Oh, so he didn't just cancel numbers on a whim. He did the actual work of repair.
Exactly. And you really only understand this rigorous application of human judgment when you see it in practice. Like how he recalibrated consequences by looking at the specific people standing before his bench.
Like the grieving woman in the text. Man, that part was heavy.
It really was. She was just buried in fines, caught in that terrible cycle where a parking ticket turns into a late fee and so on.
Right, and when he dismissed those fines, the writer observes it felt like a benediction. He essentially gave her the structural relief to just be able to grieve.
Yeah. And then there's the case of the veteran, this guy who comes in begrimed from years of service, just facing the mundane cruelty of everyday enforcement.
And Caprio just looks straight at him, offers a simple thank you for your service, and dismisses the ticket. It literally restored the man's posture.
It did. It cost the city nothing, but it returned something massive to him.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's exactly like a doctor with an incredible bedside manner.
Oh, I totally see that.
Yeah, like the actual medicine might be totally standard, right, by the book.
Yeah.
But the delivery completely changes the patient's will to heal.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And the author brings out some amazing thought leadership regarding Caprio's humor, which was a huge part of that bedside manner.
Yeah, because sometimes humor in a courtroom feels risky,
It does. But he taught humor like medicine. It wasn't frivolity. It was a tool for truth, to remind terrified people that they were still human.
It de-escalated everything, and then bringing the children up to the bench, that was just brilliant.
Letting them decide fates in those tiny, blunt ways.
Yes, because it proved a staggering philosophical point. Justice becomes utterly absurd if it isn't clear enough for a child to understand.
Exactly. If you can't explain to a 6-year-old why their dad is being punished, maybe the punishment is flawed.
Yeah.
But, this raises an important question.
The pushback.
Yeah, the critics who claim this kindness just encouraged rule breaking, like, oh, people will just game the system now.
Because God forbid we treat people like adults capable of rehabilitation.
Right. But the author points out that Caprio actually required promises from them. He made people return to their responsibilities. And crucially, he did the paperwork.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the paperwork.
Yeah. He made his mercy transparent and defensible on the public record. He proved that compassion and accountability can completely coexist.
Because kindness that you hide from the system won't survive the system. By making it transparent, his impact wasn't just confined to a single room in Rhode Island.
It rippled outward, literally fundamentally changing how the public interacts with institutions.
Which brings us to the Philomena Fund, right? Named after his mother. It was set up to help those who just couldn't afford their fines.
And it started with a single $25 viewer donation.
Just $25. And it snowballed because people didn't just want to help one person. They wanted to fund a practice of keeping electricity on and children in their beds.
It's so inspiring. And he kept doing this until he retired in 2023. They even renamed his courtroom in his honor.
And even after his pancreatic cancer diagnosis, he didn't stop modeling public endurance until his death.
He really walked the walk right up to the end.
He did. So reflecting on the writer's personal admission of overcoming his own institutional cynicism, I have to ask, how does one local municipal judge's approach to speeding tickets actually scale to change global civic imagination?
Well, the expert analysis in the text explains this through the concept of small trajectories.
Small trajectories, I like that.
Yeah, think about it. A dismissed ticket means a kid might actually be able to afford to go to college. A veteran goes home feeling less defeated by the state.
And then millions of people watching these videos learned a completely new grammar for authority.
Exactly. Caregivers learned to be tougher in kindness. Administrators got braver in mercy.
And everyday citizens learned to demand clarity and decency from distant institutions rather than just accepting them as blunt instruments of pain.
It's a total shift from cynical expectation to actively demanding decency, which leads directly to the core challenge the author leaves with us.
A quiet charge for how we carry this legacy forward in our own daily lives. So what does this all mean?
I think it means a lot of things.
Ultimately, Caprio bent time. In a single dismissal, he gave years back to a life that might have been derailed by debt.
He really did.
He proved that kindness is often the sharpest instrument we have in a problematic world, and that a life of service doesn't need to be theatrical to be deeply meaningful.
And this is where I want to directly address you, the listener. Think about the institutions you interact with today.
Yeah, your school board, your HR department.
Exactly. What if you tested them the way Caprio tested the law? Demanding they assess context and actually explain themselves.
And even on a more intimate level, if you adopted just one of Caprio's minor human adjustments today, like listening just a little longer or asking a direct question to open a story rather than end it, how would that change the shape of someone else's day?
It can change their entire trajectory. And I love the beautiful metaphor the author leaves us with to remind us of this.
Hold the ladder steady for another person.
Leave the ladder down.
Leave the ladder down. Thank you for listening to Stories by Ruchik podcast. For more such podcasts, follow Stories by Ruchik on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Prime Music, and YouTube.